Italy, a land of rich history, delicious food, and stunning cities, looks dreamy on the outside. But is life in Italy as sweet as it seems? Turns out, it's complicated. A closer look at the current economic landscape in Italy reveals an array of issues that often go unnoticed by the outside world, like budget deficits, strained relations with the European Union, and demographic challenges. From being the epitome of European culture and luxury, Italy is now grappling with economic instability and social issues. Today, we will peel back the layers of this complex situation, examining everything from government policies to the role of immigration. This is the untold story of Italy's sweet life. To get a sense of where it all started, we first have to examine the history of Italy. This nation was once the epicenter of trade and commerce in the Roman Empire's days. But fast forward to today and you'll see a different picture of economic stagnation. So what happened? How did Italy go from being a prosperous nation to facing economic challenges? Over the past 100 years, things have slowly started to change. Wars, political fractionalization, emigration, and limited fiscal capacity began to take a toll on the economy. Italy, primarily an agricultural economy, faced a severe crisis that led to the Italian diaspora, a large-scale emigration of massive proportions. Between the years 1860 and the onset of World War I, out of 16 million Italians who emigrated, 9 million left the country permanently, primarily heading to North or South America. Some estimates suggest that the number could be even higher, with as many as 14 million Italians emigrating between 1876 and 1914. These Italians left their homeland in search of better opportunities, putting a drain on the country's economic vitality. Now, you may be thinking this is nearly 100 years ago. How can that influence the country today? The large-scale movement of potential workers sent Italy into economic depression and created a culture of emigration moving forward when hard times arrived. If history has taught us one thing, it's that it often repeats itself. Fast forward to 2010, and the new emigration crisis has now unfolded, known as the brain drain. Over the past decade, young people who are often graduates with high levels of education have moved out of the country, seeking a better life abroad. In 2012 alone, Germany welcomed over 35,000 Italians, becoming a primary destination. Other countries like the UK, France, Switzerland, Canada, Australia, even the United States and South American nations are also seeing an influx of Italians. According to the 2012 data from AIRA, the Registry Office for Italians Residing Abroad, approximately 78,000 Italians moved overseas that year, an uptick of about 20,000 from the previous year. But the real kicker? The true numbers could be even higher, potentially 2 to 3 times more. Why? Many Italians delay officially changing their residence status, making the actual count of immigrants much larger than what's on paper. Italy has less than 20% of its 25 to 64-year-olds with degrees in the country. The rest have moved elsewhere. What does this mean for the future of Italy? If they don't stop this large-scale emigration pattern, Italy's economy and older population could be left in dire straits. It will affect more than just the usual suspects like pensions, healthcare, and social welfare. It could disrupt the economic balance between generations. Less youth involvement translates to lower growth potential for businesses and, by extension, the entire economy. This brings us to a vital question. Why are young Italians moving from the country in search of better opportunities? To understand this, now let's take a look at Italy's debt. When it comes to Italy's economy, several figures have been making headlines, like Italy's debt to GDP ratio reaching over 140% this year. This figure is set to grow even larger in the next few years, with no signs of reversing unless drastic measures are taken to reverse it, which would ultimately impact the young workers. This year, Italy is looking at an annual debt servicing cost of around 75 billion euros, a significant jump from 57.3 billion euros back in 2020. And here's where it gets worse. Analysts predict that by 2026, this figure could balloon to anywhere between 90 billion euros and 100 billion euros, meaning the GDP, the debt ratio, could balloon up to 150%, making Italy the regional leader in borrowing ratios. So who's going to be hit with paying this outstanding bill? The workers and the young. And it got worse as the European Central Bank decided to hike up interest rates. Now, higher interest rates mean Italy has to shell out more money just to manage its debt. And when you're a country already swimming in debt, that's like adding fuel to the fire, making debt management a nightmare. Put these together, and you have a recipe for a widening budget deficit. According to the latest macroeconomic forecast by the European Union, Italy's real GDP growth is expected to slow to 1.2% in 2023 and 1.1% in 2024. But here's where it gets interesting. Inflation is projected to stay high at 6.1% this year and then decrease to 2.9% in 2024 thanks to falling energy prices. Could this mean that there is a chance for Italy to right its course? Perhaps, but the inflation crunch that many are feeling right now is eroding real incomes, and given the subdued wage growth, this is a double whammy for young workers who are already grappling with entry-level salaries. From housing to groceries, inflation is making everything more expensive. It's no wonder that educated young workers have decided to seek out opportunities elsewhere. Now let's talk about the role of the European Union and the Italian government. Italy is slated to receive €191.5 billion for 2026 from the European Union's Recovery and Resilience Facility. This could offset the huge debt the country is facing and the budget deficits. However, the country is lagging in spending the funds as already received. As of end February data, Italy has spent just €25.74 billion of the nearly €67 billion it received. Italy is also falling behind in meeting designated targets and milestones that would trigger the release of new payments. Specifically, Italy is currently facing issues in implementing 118 or 22% of 527 targets set for reforms and investments. The governor report showed that the huge amount of micro-projects complicates the system. There are more than 76,000 projects worth up to €70,000 each, and around 28,000 in the 70,000 to 180,000 range. This, of course, looks great on paper and for the workers if the projects get up and running. But in reality, these micro-projects are causing delays and adding complexity to the funding process. The delays are mainly due to unexpected increases in the cost of raw materials and supply bottlenecks, which practically all countries face thanks to the pandemic. On the positive side, Italy has received some encouraging data from the labor market. Employment is increasing and unemployment is decreasing. This may sound strange considering that many young, educated Italians are moving to other countries. But this surge in employment is coming from a different source. In fact, Italy has been grappling with a significant increase in migrant arrivals, particularly from North Africa and the Balkans. According to Interior Ministry data, Italy recorded around 113,500 sea arrivals in the year to date, compared to about 55,800 in the same period last year. Because Italy faced labor force shortages due to its aging population, it had to increase entry quotas for non-EU migrant workers to 452,000 for 2023-2025, up from around 83,000 in 2022. This move has already begun to fill gaps in the labor market. The government has been walking a tightrope, trying to balance the need for labor with the challenges posed by increased immigration. The situation calls for a nuanced approach that addresses both economic needs and humanitarian concerns. Which brings us to the new frontier. Will Italy become an immigrant nation that slowly loses its culture as the young move out, the old pass away, and the new arrivals from other countries force a new culture to be born? That's hard to know, but Italy's demographic changes will likely continue. Demographic changes in Italy. The median age in Italy is 48.3 years, making it the highest among the EU countries. This aging population is not just a number. It has real economic implications. An older population means more pension payouts and less workforce participation, putting a strain on the country's social security system. In 2022, Italy saw about 27,000 fewer births compared to 2019, dropping below 400,000. This decline is attributed 80% to the decrease in women aged 15 to 49 and 20% to the drop in fertility rate. Fewer births mean fewer future workers, which could lead to a decrease in GDP and the country's overall decline. While immigration is expected to increase to 280,000 immigrants annually, it's not enough to offset the declining population. Between 2021 and 2050, Italy's resident population is estimated to decrease by nearly 5 million, reaching just over 54 million. Almost 1 in 2 young Italians aged 18 to 34 face difficulties in education, employment, health, or the region they live in. Italy's economic landscape is complex. Understanding Italy's economic challenges requires a multifaceted approach that considers all these elements. While there's no easy fix, in crisis lies opportunity. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, consider subscribing to our channel and hit that like button to spread the word.